The CPU, short for Central Processing Unit, is like the brain of the computer, and once you understand how it works, you'll understand the computer as well. Let's remove the cover of the CPU and zoom in to see what happens inside. There are lots of different wires carrying information around the CPU. This particular CPU is called the 6502 and was used in computers like the Apple II and the Commodore 64, as well as in the original Nintendo Entertainment System. This simulation of the 6502 can be found online at visual6502.org. In every CPU, there is a particular wire that turns on and off at a steady rate to help keep everything in sync. That wire is called the clock, and the clock in this simulation is turning on about twice a second. Modern CPUs are measured in gigahertz, giga meaning billion and hertz meaning times per second. So the clock in modern CPUs turns on several billion times per second. That speed is what allows CPUs to do very complicated things very quickly. However, what the CPU does during each clock tick is actually very simple and something we'll look at more in this video. For now, we'll zoom back out and put the cover back on. The CPU in your computer might be manufactured by a company like Intel or AMD, but the type of CPU we're going to look at today is called the Scott CPU. The Scott CPU doesn't actually exist except as a design in a book called But How Do It Know by John Scott. The design of the Scott CPU is copyrighted and is being used in this video with John's permission. The book is available at buthowdoitknow.com. This is a great book that goes through each of the components in the CPU very slowly, without using a lot of overly technical jargon. If you've been looking for a book that explains how a computer works, I would highly recommend this one. So let's flip the CPU over and look underneath. You'll see a lot of pins sticking out that allow the CPU to take in information and send it back out. The CPU fits into what's known as the motherboard. The motherboard allows all the components in the computer to connect to each other. So we'll flip the CPU back over and plug it into the motherboard. On the right of the motherboard is a place for something called RAM. RAM is short for Random Access Memory, and it just contains all the data that is being processed by the CPU. Let's learn a little bit more about RAM by looking at how the CPU and RAM interact. For now, we'll remove the wire